At the start of the movie, we're introduced to a family vacationing in the Caribbean Sea to celebrate their son Ben's birthday. Everything seems to be going perfectly. While Ben's mom, Julian, takes a swim, Ben and his dad, Tom, are busy fishing. Suddenly, while Julian is swimming, she feels like something large is circling around her. She pauses to look around, but the sea looks completely normal. Out of nowhere, she's yanked underwater. Meanwhile, a warning signal goes off on the yacht, but Ben and Tom don't notice because they're still focused on fishing. Julian struggles to keep herself from drowning and calls out to Tom repeatedly, but no one hears her. She starts feeling as if the water is pulling her backward. Luckily, Tom finally notices that Julian is drifting further away from the yacht. He immediately jumps into the water to save her. At the same time, Ben starts the yacht's engine and brings it closer. Tom rescues Julian from drowning, and Ben and Cassie pull them back onto the boat. Once everyone is back on board and Julian is safe, Tom is furious. He scolds the others, saying that they had agreed to watch anyone swimming in the water, and accuses them of not paying attention. He asks them what they would have done if Julian had died, and adds that if Cassie had drowned, they would have been in deep trouble. After apologizing to Julian, they try to forget about the incident and move on with Ben's birthday celebration that night. Later, Cassie receives a call from her boyfriend and learns that a terrible storm is brewing in the city. Concerned, she tells her parents. They all decide to check the safety barriers on the yacht. While doing this, they notice that whales and sharks are circling their yacht. Tom explains that whales and sharks usually behave this way before a storm hits, as they can't predict the waves. This confirms their fear. A storm is coming, and they need to brace themselves for it. But first, they have to deal with the sharks. In the middle of their conversation, the yacht suddenly gets hit hard by something. To investigate, Tom dives into the water and sees a massive dent on the yacht, likely caused by a shark. When he comes back on board, he's badly injured, and Julian stitches up his wounds. Tom delivers some bad news. Because of the damage, they won't be able to sail forward. Worse still, their radio isn't getting any signal, so they can't call for help. In this dire situation, Tom checks their supplies and discovers they only have enough drinking water for 4 days. However, he remains hopeful because they're on a shipping route, so there's a chance a passing ship might spot them. While they're discussing their options, they suddenly hear a loud noise from outside. When they go out to investigate, they see a meteorite crashing toward the sea. Tom quickly starts the yacht's engine in an attempt to escape, even though he knows it might destroy their yacht. As predicted, the engine gets destroyed. To make matters worse, another meteorite is now heading straight for them. With no other choice, they rush to the lower deck of the yacht, put on life jackets, and brace for impact. A loud explosion follows, and they all black out. When they come to, they realize they've somehow survived. Though they're injured, they're shocked to find that despite a massive hole in their yacht, there's no water flooding in. Tom and Ben go outside and discover that their yacht has run aground in a rocky area. The entire landscape has changed. Where there was once ocean, there are now only mountains of mud. Tom pulls out his compass and quickly realizes that something has gone terribly wrong with the Earth's magnetic field. The North and South poles have switched places, and the sea has moved to a different location, leaving a lake where the ocean once was. The family is stunned by this realization. Tom somberly remarks that, in the midst of all this chaos, most of humanity has probably perished. Jessica is so overwhelmed by the situation that she shuts herself in a cabin, refusing to speak to anyone. Julian starts gathering whatever food is left while Ben releases a bunch of his birthday balloons into the air, hoping that if there are any survivors, they might see the balloons and come to help. Meanwhile, Tom works desperately to get the radio working again and tries to contact anyone who might be out there. Tom didn't expect a reply at all. But to his surprise, one came. It was from a captain who was inside a small submarine. The captain knew about the ocean's sudden shift because, like Tom's family, he had been in a submarine during the event. That's how he survived the disaster. The captain explained to Tom that the Earth's poles had shifted. However, they would return to their original positions in about a week. When that happened, the sea would also come back to its usual place, but the waves would be dangerously powerful. The captain advised Tom to find a safe, sheltered spot to ride out the storm, as it would increase their chances of survival. Hearing this, Julian immediately told the kids to start packing. Meanwhile, Tom pleaded with the captain to take their children aboard the submarine, arguing that they'd be safer there. But the captain regretfully told him that he couldn't. His submarine was too small. In fact, he had already sacrificed his own life to save someone else, leaving just enough space for one more person. Desperate, Tom begged him to reconsider, asking if he could somehow fit both kids, promising to do whatever it took in exchange. The captain agreed. Tom then figured out the submarine's location and told Julian they could make it there in 2 days, just before the sea returned with its deadly waves. The plan was to get their kids to safety on the submarine, which would save their lives. The next morning, the family was ready to start their journey. That's when Tom noticed a strange man walking a dog in the distance. The man appeared to be injured, so Tom, feeling obligated to help, offered him water. But instead of showing gratitude, the man attacked him. Julian, standing nearby, saw everything. The man stabbed Tom in the hand and killed him. Julian was powerless to save her husband. In a panic, she ran inside their yacht and warned the kids, hiding them in the cabin. She gave Cassie a flare gun, instructing her to use it only in case of extreme danger. Just as she was finishing, the murderer broke into the yacht. To protect herself, Julian hid in the bathroom, clutching her wounds. Meanwhile, the killer started scavenging the yacht for food, clearly starving. After wolfing down what he found, the man tried to search for Julian but found the cabin empty. She had escaped through a hole in the boat. Unfortunately, the killer's dog spotted her and started barking. Julian had no choice but to kill the dog to silence it. She hid under the boat, avoiding the killer for a while. But when the man noticed his dog wasn't moving, he realized Julian had fled the boat. The killer then left the boat to search for her, and while he was distracted, Julian managed to sneak back aboard through a broken window. Her luck didn't last long though, as the man soon caught her. He grabbed her and tortured her, strangling her in the process. But Julian fought back with all her strength. Cassie, who had been watching everything unfold from the cabin, saw this as the perfect time to use the flare gun. She fired it, but it didn't do much damage to the man. However, the yacht caught fire. Julian quickly grabbed her 2 kids and fled the yacht before it became engulfed in flames. But as soon as they got out, the killer attacked Julian again. This time, she kicked him away and broke free. Outside, Cassie and Ben began to sob when they saw their father's body. The tragic events were overwhelming, especially for Ben, who blamed himself for leaving those colorful balloons that had drawn the killer to them in the first place. Julian, devastated, mourned over her husband's body. But when she saw the killer emerging from the burning yacht, she knew they had to leave immediately. She grabbed the kids and ran. They were exhausted and eventually stopped behind a hill to rest. Ben continued crying, and Cassie tried to comfort him by offering some water, but he refused. While they were catching their breath, Julian realized the killer was still on their trail. They bolted again, but the killer remained close behind. They soon found themselves in an area filled with poisonous water, where any wrong move could mean death. Julian warned her children to be cautious and push forward. As they moved on, Ben's condition worsened. He was severely dehydrated, so Julian gave him the last drop of water, though it wasn't nearly enough. Cassie began to lose hope, admitting that she didn't believe they'd survive. She wanted to give up, but Julian wouldn't let her. "We're going to make it," she assured her. "Just do as I say." Motivated by their mother's determination, Cassie and Ben kept moving. Not long after, they stumbled upon a crashed plane that had likely been there for years. They hid inside, and Julian took a moment to look at a family photo they had taken just the night before. It brought back memories of Tom, and the grief hit hard. Night fell, and though Cassie and Ben managed to fall asleep, Julian was too anxious to rest. She stepped outside the plane and, even in the darkness, spotted the killer still pursuing them. She pretended to sleep, waiting for him to come closer. When he finally did, Julian sprang up and attacked him, stabbing him to death. The threat was finally gone. With the killer no longer haunting them, Julian allowed herself to fall into a deep, peaceful sleep. And in the morning when these people woke up, they saw that the killer they had just dealt with is found in terrible shape, giving them a chilling realization. The sea itself is dangerous. With that unsettling truth in mind, their goal is now clear. They need to reach a submarine where their captain is located. While Julian is busy checking the map, Ben, one of the group members, gets incredibly thirsty. Ignoring Julian's warnings, Ben starts drinking water from a nearby pond. Turns out, the pond is toxic, but Ben's thirst gets the better of him. Julian rushes over and pulls him away just in time, but it's too late. Ben gets sick from the poisonous water. Julian and Cassie build a shelter for him so he can rest. Just when they're trying to catch their breath, Julian hears strange noises. When he steps outside, she sees an army of crabs coming straight at them. They have no choice but to run for their lives. In the distance, they spot a huge cargo ship filled with containers. Desperate for help, they approach the ship, but when the people hiding inside see them, they lock themselves in one of the containers, refusing to help. The crab swarm is closing in fast. Ben and Cassie manage to climb to the top of one of the containers, and Julian follows, though she gets bitten by a crab along the way. She shakes it off, bandages her leg with a scarf, but the pain knocks him out. Meanwhile, the crabs break into the container and begin attacking the people inside. Despite their best efforts with weapons, the crabs just keep coming. By morning, Julian wakes up, panicking when she realizes her kids are gone. Fearing the worst, she starts to break down, thinking they might be dead. But then she sees them returning with supplies. They had gone out to find food and weapons. To his relief, the crabs have moved on for now. Julian quickly treats his crab bite, while Ben looks over the weapons they've gathered. Julian gets in contact with their captain using a radio. The captain tells him that the sea creatures attacked him too, and he's severely injured, unable to help them any further. He warns Julian that the sea is shifting, and that's why all these creatures have returned. Unfortunately, in all the chaos, they lost their map, leaving them without a clear path to the submarine. In a last-ditch effort, the captain fires a flare into the sky, giving them a direction to follow. Ben spots the flare, and they begin their journey towards the submarine. Eventually, they see a small yellow submarine in the distance, but there's a big problem. To get to it, they have to cross over a field of toxic waste, and just passing through could make them very sick. Tensions rise when Cassie starts blaming Julian, accusing him of not protecting his children properly. They argue, but Julian snaps back, putting an end to the bickering. Cassie urges them to keep moving forward. As they continue, they meet another survivor. While navigating the treacherous terrain, there's a sudden landslide. Julian, who's at the back of the group, tumbles down and gets trapped on a large rock. Cassie doesn't want to leave him behind, but Julian makes her promise to save her brother no matter what. Heartbroken, Cassie pushes forward with Ben. When they finally reach the submarine, they find it abandoned. Frantically, they start banging on the door, but then the captain appears, badly injured. He tells them there's no chance he'll survive, and only 3 people can fit in the submarine. Cassie immediately remembers Julian and races back to help him. Back at the scene, Julian is fighting off crabs with a gun, but bullets are running low. Just before a crab gets to her, Cassie arrives and pulls her to safety. Together, they sprint back to the submarine. They jump inside, buckle up, and just in time too, a massive wave of water crashes toward them. The impact knocks them all out. When Julian finally regains consciousness, she realizes they're no longer underwater. The wave has dragged their submarine to a ruined city. The place looks completely abandoned, and it seems like they're the only survivors in this desolate world. And that's where the story ends.